Hi guys, and thank you so much for joining me. If you are new to my channel, I'm Kat and I like to talk about true crime, conspiracies and all sorts of related things. In today's video, I want to talk to you about the disappearance of Théo Hayez. But before we get started, just a quick disclaimer. I don't mean to be disrespectful to anyone I talk about in today's video. The video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. All the information that I'm giving you in today's video is already found in the public domain. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Thank you so much. This case was requested by you quite some time ago. I'm really sorry that I'm covering this late. I am still working through all of your requests. Now let's get started. Since 2019, the disappearance of Belgian backpacker Théo Hayez has baffled the Byron Bay community and police alike. On May 31st, 2019, the 18-year-old was seen leaving Cheeky Monkey's nightclub in Byron Bay, Australia. As he made his way back to the hostel where he was staying, Theo messaged a friend back home in Belgium just after midnight. Almost a week later, however, the 18-year-old was reported missing when he failed to check out from the WakeUp hostel in Byron Bay, leaving his belongings, including his passport, untouched in his room. To begin with, I'll give you a quick overview of Theo's case and then we dive deep into all the details, and towards the end I will also give you my theories or opinions on it. Byron Bay is one of the ultimate tourist destinations in Australia, with almost 2 million visitors descending on this tiny town every year. Halfway up the east coast in the Australian state of New South Wales, Byron beckons travellers from all parts of the world. A 9-hour drive from Sydney and 2 hours from Brisbane, the town is accessible while still feeling oddly remote. With dozens of beautiful beaches, great surf and spiritual activities, it's easy to get sucked into Byron's laid-back vibe and lose touch with the outside world. With more backpackers than actual residents residing in Byron for much of the year, Byron Bay's culture is very unique. It's both diverse and inclusive, whilst also being unfriendly and intolerant to those who do not fit a certain mold. Many Australians would describe the town as being pretentious. Théo Hayez, a Belgian national, had spent almost 1 year traveling around Australia. He was allegedly apprehensive about the trip initially, wondering whether it was worth delaying his engineering studies for. However, he decided he wanted to go visit various friends and family around Australia, and he really enjoyed his trip. He spent a large portion of his time with his cousin, Lisa Hayez. Lisa later provided good insight into what Theo's version of backpacking looked like. While many young travelers get caught up in drugs and partying, Theo was responsible. He wanted to form and continue genuine connections with people, particularly those close to him, and enjoying experiences without drugs and heavy drinking. He liked organization and everything he did was according to plan. He spoke with his mom every couple of days. Theo arrived in Byron Bay on Wednesday, May 29th of 2019. His plan was to spend a few days in the town before taking a Greyhound bus on Monday, June the 3rd, back to Sydney, Melbourne, and then heading home to Belgium. This was the last leg of his Australian trip, and he was very much looking forward to starting his new chapter of life, university, and then building a career. Theo checked into the WakeUp hostel in Belgium. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. WakeUp is one of the nicer hostels in town, located slightly out of the main center. Byron Bay is very small, with the entire town being accessible by foot if you are fit. Only a 20-minute walk from the main street, WakeUp also lets backpackers use their bikes and get free rides on their regular shuttle buses. Theo stayed in a single-person room and quickly made friends with some of the other backpackers there. May 31st was a cold night in the middle of Australian winter. In fact, it was the coldest night on record for May and June in Byron. Theo and a new friend caught a shuttle bus into town in the early evening. They went to the Northern Hotel's bottle shop where CCTV shows them purchasing rose wine at 7:45 p.m. and acting perfectly normal. They caught the shuttle bus back to the backpackers and shared the wine with some other backpackers in the common area outside. Later on in the evening, Theo and some other backpackers caught another shuttle bus into town. A quick walk from the shuttle parking lot brought them to Cheeky Monkey's, a well-known backpackers bar. Cheeky Monkey's has a bad reputation around town. In the early 2000s, it was ranked as one of the most violent bars in Australia, and every Byron local you meet seems to have a strong opinion about Cheeky Monkey's. Most recently, it was purchased by a reputable company that runs multiple bars and pubs across Australia, and it is slowly losing its reputation of being that bar where my friend's drink got spiked or that bar where my mate got bashed by the security guards. The bar is in one of the two main roads, although it's slightly out from the main town center. Walking there at night has an eerie feel to it due to poor lighting and the lack of foot traffic. While Byron is bustling during the summer and school holidays, Friday, May 31st was a quiet night in town. Cheeky Monkey's reported being about quarter capacity. After buying 2 drinks at the bar, Theo was escorted out by security staff at 11 p.m. He was polite but wobbly on his feet, they said. There is debate about how intoxicated Theo was, with multiple witnesses claiming he wasn't drunk. By all accounts, he hadn't had that much to drink and he wasn't aggressive or causing any issues. CCTV footage captures his departure from the bar and documents the last known time Théo Hayez was seen alive. Up to this point, there was nothing particularly notable about Théo Hayez or his 2 days in Byron. What happened next would be unbelievable if we didn't have evidence that it did in fact happen. Until recently, it was assumed that Theo tried to walk back to the backpackers' hostel and something happened en route. There was some blurry CCTV footage of a nearby petrol station that seemed to support this. And, it just kind of made sense. You can see from the map that the hostel was an easy walk from town. Byron isn't big, and if you follow the bright lights and signs, WakeUp is actually remarkably easy to get to. However, after obtaining Theo's Google records, it was determined that Theo didn't go back to the hostel that night. Theo left the bar at 11 p.m. CCTV footage shows him walking off into the darkness of Kingsley Street, one of the roads perpendicular to Johnson. From there, he messaged several of his friends. It's almost certain that it was him sending the messages, given that they were written in French and were typical of his style. He also watched part of a YouTube video. He sent a WhatsApp message to his stepsister about 1 a.m. He used Google Maps multiple times to search for the route back to his backpackers hostel. He walked into the opposite direction from the hostel, from Kingsley to Tennyson Street to the Youth Activity Center. He then walked very quickly all the way to the Milne track. Cheeky Monkey's bar is the middle of the map. By seeing this, you can tell what an odd route it is. The hostel is at the top left corner of the map, around 20 minutes walk. Byron Bay Lighthouse is at the top right corner of the map, about an hour's walk on a good day. Theo walked a couple minutes to the right, then a few minutes up to a large outdoor activity center, think something of a big open field, then hurried towards the bottom right before walking through Milne track to Tallow Beach. The total walking time from the bar to the Milne track would be less than 20 minutes at a normal pace. The streets he walked down were dark. Very dark. They are in town, but there is nothing out there. Even on busy summer nights, they are far removed from the hustle and bustle of Byron, despite being only minutes away. And the Milne track, tourists, they don't usually go there. It's not one of those hidden gems that get tossed around. It goes from Milne Street through bushland out to Tallow Beach. And Theo didn't follow the Milne track properly. Instead of following it As it curves south, he took a turn off into bushland and curved north. The bush is thick out there. One would have to battle through a lot of branches. He seemingly made a straight shot through, which would be virtually impossible without knowing the area. Theo didn't return to the hostel. He didn't board the Greyhound bus. He didn't catch his flight back to Belgium. Theo's mother began to worry when she didn't hear from him for a couple of days. While he was out of character, she understood that sometimes he wasn't able to get mobile coverage. 3 days later, the alarm was sounded and Theo was reported missing. The search began promptly after that, but unfortunately, the trail was already growing cold. WakeUp Hostel didn't report Theo missing until 3 days after he was meant to check out. His room was apparently left unbothered. There has been much criticism of their handling of this, but it tends to be quite distracting from the case. People go missing all the time in Byron for a few days. They end up at a party or an adventure or on the wrong substance, but they always turn back up though. The Byron Bay community banded together and organized search efforts. They were active in sharing flyers and information about the missing backpacker. When Theo's family came to town, they organized free accommodation and food for them. Everyone in Byron has kept close tabs on this story. Most of the search effort centered around the wrong areas, as far as anyone can tell, Belongil and the lighthouse. By the time it was realized where his path actually brought him, the trail was very cold. Theo's grey puma cap was allegedly found in the bushland near Telos Beach. The family is confident it's his. Online sleuths were combing through Instagram and Facebook data, hoping to find any clues about beach gatherings that night. It's likely that if Theo did meet new friends that night, they would be long gone from Byron with no idea that he disappeared. This story, reaching the attention of former Byron travelers, might be the key to solving this mystery. A podcast called The Lighthouse was recently released by The Australian. It's very detailed with their own investigation, for which I will leave the link in the description below if you want to listen to it. And I just want to give my thanks to Not Sherry Papini from Reddit for giving detailed description about the area and customs around Byron Bay. Now guys, this is the long story short, okay? But now I want to deep dive into it. Let's dig deeper. Following Theo's disappearance, state emergency service volunteers, dogs, drones and members of the public searched unsuccessfully for the backpacker in a months-long search, finding little clues in regards to his disappearance. 3.5 months after Theo vanished, the case was referred to the New South Wales coroner, bringing the official police search to an end. In November 2019, the Australian podcast team behind the award-winning podcasts The Teacher's Pet and Who the Hell is Hamish released the Lighthouse podcast, which investigates the search for Théo Hayez. Very recently, Théo Hayez' family have released a message in the Looking for Théo Hayez Facebook group, thanking the public for their ongoing efforts to help find their son. Since the beginning of the year, we have spoken less publicly about developments, the post read. Far from us giving up hope or dedication. The main reason is because the ongoing police process means we need to be careful about what we say. We think about Theo every minute and would like to share any information that may help to find out what happened to him. But we have to be careful that we also give the police the best chance of finding this out. 3 weeks after Theo disappeared, a Byron Bay resident allegedly found a bludgeon stick in the Clark's Beach dunes. According to news.com.au, the club, which had the judge written on it in black letters and dark blood colored stains, was handed in to police. However, the club's location was not recorded at the time. The club was found less than a 10-minute walk away from where Theo's mobile phone last pinged off a mobile tower in the early hours of the morning on June the 1st, 2019. On the Australians' podcast The Lighthouse, the path of Theo on the night he disappeared was revealed as tracked by Google Maps tracking data. After leaving Cheeky Monkeys, Theo's phone was tracked at Tallow Beach, where a grey puma cap was found in bushland on July 7, 2019. Police were conducting DNA tests on 2 hairs found on the suspected hat 8 months after Theo vanished in Byron Bay. The discovery and testing of the hairs has taken Theo's family by surprise, after they were previously told DNA tests on the puma cap were inconclusive. Byron detectives informed Theo's family of the hairs and new round of tests. Family and friends, including Theo's godfather Jean-Philippe Pector, strongly believe the cap is Theo's and regard it as a significant piece of evidence as the only items of his clothing recovered. As of now, I couldn't really find any more information in regards to the DNA results on the hairs recovered from the hat. It could be that they have the DNA results, but they are keeping it to themselves, considering it's still an open investigation. Speaking to the Lighthouse, a volunteer and Byron Bay resident Nolene Smith shared that she joined the search for Theo as she feared his drink may have been spiked. I know the area quite well. The fact that it was Cheeky Monkeys concerned me because that place is very well known for people having their drinks spiked and not very nice things happening, she told the podcast. The Lighthouse podcast reported that Theo's friends and relatives were sent anonymous messages claiming he'd been kidnapped. The messages demanded a ransom of $300,000 in Bitcoin for his release. Theo's godfather, Jean-Philippe Pector, received one of the messages on Facebook from someone calling himself Mike Larry. I am aware how scary this message is going to be. We have Theo, the message begins. Please inform his father that he is okay. He is not in Byron. We had to move him and lay low due to all the looking around. He is okay for now if his father follows what we want to the letter. This is not a hoax. Your son is kidnapped. According to the podcast, the messages were investigated by police. The Lighthouse podcast also suggested a new theory about Theo's disappearance. According to the podcast, Theo spent 5.5 minutes in a densely vegetated area above Tallow Beach. This is why I think he was hiding, Byron Bay local Sheriff Di Rosario said in the episode. The branches are horizontal and there's vines with sharp prickles everywhere. It's very sort of dark in here. At night, it would be absolutely pitch black and it's hidden from the beach. The beach where Theo is last known to have been was also the site of illegal late night parties, which were often frequented by backpackers and young tourists. On 12th of November 2019, a volunteer who was involved in the search for Theo claimed they had been informed the 18-year-old was wearing black Adidas sneakers on the day he disappeared. We've recently discovered that the shoes Theo was wearing when he went missing may in fact have been Adidas. They shared on Facebook according to Daily Mail. We are still trying to confirm whether this is fact. Police believe Théo Hayez was wearing a black hooded jumper with an unknown motif on the front, beige trousers, black shoes, and a grey puma hat when he disappeared. In June 2019, Theo's father, Laurent, asked encrypted service WhatsApp for help in obtaining his son's messages, which he believes may hold the key to finding him. In a statement, WhatsApp said it was working with law enforcement, but it was limited in what data it can access from Theo's account. WhatsApp cares deeply about the safety of our users and our hearts go out to Théo Hayez and his family, a spokesman said. We understand the important work being carried out by law enforcement and are assisting them in accordance with applicable law and our terms of service. WhatsApp uses end-to-end encryption, a system of communication where only the communicating parties can read the message. Even if WhatsApp accessed Theo's account, they could not have the encryption key needed to read his messages. In November 2019, the missing backpacker's final text messages were shared after his family gained access to his Google account. An hour after leaving Cheeky Monkey's bar at 12:20 a.m., Theo messaged a friend in French on Facebook discussing an upcoming U2 Australian tour. At 12:55 a.m., Theo sent his final message on WhatsApp to his stepsister, writing "Merci" with a kiss emoji. An inquest into Théo Hayez' disappearance began. Theo's father, Laurent, said he would like the New South Wales government to issue a reward for information about his son's disappearance. At the inquest, police revealed their theory that Theo clambered up the beachside cliffs, dropped his phone, then fell and was swept out to sea. His family, who have traveled to Byron Bay from Europe for his 2-week inquest in the New South Wales Coroner's Court, didn't agree that Theo, being a cautious boy, would wander in the dark in an area he doesn't know. They said the only way he would climb the cliffs is if someone was with him, reassuring him he was safe. Whether Theo met anybody else that night is one of the major mysteries the inquest explores. Another is how he came to be on the Cozy Corner beach in the dark. His following decisions would be hard to believe if investigators didn't have Google data obtained by his family. Theo walked in the opposite direction to the Google route outlined on Google Maps. For 7 minutes, he stopped at the cricket nets. Next, he took a dark track through bushland towards the ocean, at points appearing to walk quickly or even run. At the urging of locals and police, Coroner Teresa O'Sullivan walked the mile track one night. Police noted it would be strange for a foreigner to walk the frightening and spooky track alone at night, giving rise to theories that Theo was with someone else. He turned off the track into steep, dense bushland and ended up on the beach. He was at Cozy Corner when he appears to have turned off his location services just after midnight to save battery. His light-hearted messages sent in the next hour suggested he felt safe. At 12:55 a.m., he sent that final message to his sister. Then, something happened at 1:02 a.m., said counsel assisting the inquest, Kristen Edwards. If we knew what that was, we think we probably would know what happened to Theo. That's when his phone stopped receiving data. At 6:17 a.m., it re-entered reception range and continued to receive data until lunchtime that day, indicating it did not fall into the water. The phone has never been found. Journalist David Murray, who is a crime correspondent for The Australian, has followed the case since the beginning. He has published the results of his investigations on a website which now features a video in which a woman, beauty therapist Lisa Holm, described driving at about 4 just outside Coffs Harbour, around 240 kilometers from where Theo was last seen at Byron Bay in New South Wales. Suddenly, she saw a man aged around 30 years by the side of the road in the pitch black of the night, gesticulating at her to stop. Beside the man, lying on the ground, apparently lifeless, was another man who resembled the description of Theo. She did stop, but then she got scared and drove off again. She claims to have reported the incident to police, who later said they had found no trace of the two men. However, David, the journalist, has been unable to uncover any police report of the incident. Since Theo's disappearance, his father has traveled to Australia to help with the search, which has gone over the locality where he was last traced with a fine-tooth comb, without finding a single trace of Theo. In June 2020, the official search was stopped because of bad weather and not resumed later, although volunteers continued to look. Later in June, 3 Belgian police officers flew to Australia to offer their assistance, arriving at the same time as Theo's mother. In early July 2020, after deploying police dogs and drones in the search, Australian police called off the hunt on the ground and the Belgian officers returned home. The investigation, however, continues. A cap which he may have been wearing was found in July, but advanced the inquiry no further. By the end of July, police were reassuring family and the public that the investigation was still fully operational. In December 2021, the fellow Belgian backpacker who bought Goon, which is a kind of a cheap wine, with Théo Hayez from a Byron Bay bottle shop the night he went missing, also captured on the CCTV of the shop, has spoken of their last moments together. Antoine van Leydam met Theo at a barbecue at their hostel, WakeUp, and the pair bonded about their shared hometown of Brussels. On the day of Theo's disappearance, Mr. Leydam had gone for a long walk along the beach to the famous Cape Byron lighthouse with another friend. This is something he might have discussed with Theo, who was last seen being ejected from the Cheeky Monkeys bar at 11 p.m. on May 31st, 2019. Antoine agreed that him and Theo from Brussels, they clicked, and later wrote in a police statement that Theo struck me as someone who is open-minded and can speak easily to people. He recalled Theo was ready to leave Australia and was pretty excited to go back home to meet his friends and begin his engineering degree in September. Video footage showed the pair later searching a local bottle shop for cheap wine, settling on a 2-liter box of the Bertolli Rose for $11, which they brought back to the hostel and shared with the rest. He thinks they both consumed about 3 glasses because they didn't really like the taste of it. He didn't seem that drunk or tipsy, Mr. Leydam said. The backpackers later caught a shuttle bus into town. Mr. Leydam said he remembered the night was particularly cold and that the group never discussed taking drugs or showed any interest in doing so. After the group gained entry into Cheeky Monkeys, Theo's interactions with his new friend diminished, and Mr. Leydam said he had no idea Theo had been ejected from the bar. So he sent him a Facebook message the following day with words translated to the effect, "Did you get home okay?" Mr. Leydam left Byron Bay on June 1st, 2019, but later returned when Theo's cousin Lisa Hayes reached out and he helped police with their search. New evidence in the case suggests Theo met up with a mystery local who knew Byron Bay's dark places and may have lured him to his death. The clues also suggest he may have met with foul play at the hand of one or more people connected with the drug trade in the notorious northern town of Nimbin. Special investigator Ken Gamble said in a program there was a suggestion Theo's belongings were taken from Byron Bay's Tallow Beach and dumped in an abandoned house in Nimbin, 70 kilometers away. An anonymous tip claiming Theo Hayez was buried in Byron Bay bushland has led investigators to a dilapidated squatter house where they found a chilling link to a dead woman named Thea Liddell. The private investigator for the family of Theo had investigated the tip. The tipster claimed to have overheard a conversation at the Byron pub in which 2 patrons quizzed a man about a missing Belgian backpacker. Quickly, I realized that this conversation was in fact becoming an interrogation by 2 female patrons on another male patron, they said, according to the tipster. All I could hear was the females ask him, "Where is he then? You lot are a bunch of dogs if you don't tell anyone where he is." A day later, at the same pub, the same man allegedly dropped a bombshell about the enduring mystery. They decided to hide the body in dense bushland in Byron. I hope this information is useful, and no matter the circumstances, I hope that Theo's family is given the closure they deserve, he said, according to the tipster. The tip led to another claim that Theo's belongings had been dumped at a squatter house in Nimbin, a town famous for hippie culture and marijuana use, about 65 kilometers from Byron. Private investigator Ken Gamble, acting pro bono for the Hayes family, tracked down the home and discovered a mysterious link to the woman named Thea Liddell, who was 42 years old. Among the rubbish, broken floorboards and smashed glass, Mr. Gamble found letters addressed to Miss Liddell, whose skeletal remains were found on Byron Bay's Theo Beach Road in July 2020. According to his Google Maps data, Theo had visited Theo Beach shortly after he left Byron Bay nightclub Cheeky Monkeys, where he was last seen on May 31st, 2019. A few months after Théo Hayez vanished, a cap similar to one he was wearing was found in bushland near Theo Beach. Miss Liddell, or Mrs. Liddell, a former microbiologist who became homeless, went missing 5 months after Théo Hayes' disappearance. Mr. Gamble's investigation found Theo Beach was a reputed hangout for meth and heroin junkies, sparking speculation Théo Hayez may have met his fate there. The private detective told the Australian he had identified 20 people of interest. These are the kinds of people Theo could have run into if he met with foul play, he said. They are people who have violent histories and mental health issues and that are homeless or mix in those circles. They hang out at Theo Beach and use drugs like ice and heroin. The data examined by Nine comes from detailed analysis of Google tracking on Theo's mobile, which charts the Belgian teenager's every step despite the fact his phone was never found. The same data that we already went through earlier. New South Wales Police believed he was alone and lost, but the Google tracking data suggests the teen met up with someone and was lured into dense bush. Deep analysis of his mobile phone data shows him taking an erratic route towards Byron's Theo Beach in the early hours of the morning after the night he vanished. The tracking shows Theo making a sudden turn down an almost impenetrable bush track on one of the coldest nights in Byron that year. Special investigator Ken Gamble said it was obvious that Theo took the turn because someone knew a shortcut to the beach. Fellow investigator Nigel Fayer said it has to be a local to know the route. Just hours earlier, Theo had been drinking in a Byron Bay bar on a short break after finishing the 6-month backpacking holiday across Australia. He spent time with his uncle and family in Victoria and his cousins in southeast Queensland before stopping off for several days in the holiday town. Described by his family as level-headed and cautious, Theo was not known as a big drinker or drug taker. But on the night of May 31st, 2019, he accompanied fellow Belgian backpacker Antoine to a drinking hotspot called the Cheeky Monkeys, as we already know. One of the bar's doormen threw Theo out because he appeared to be intoxicated. It was a sliding doors moment for Theo, who wandered into the night alone, never to be seen again. CCTV of Theo out on the street shows him looking at his phone. Checks of his data showed he looked up the hostel he was staying at, the WakeUp, but was headed in the wrong direction. Although police say he was lost, Ken Gamble and Nigel Fayer believe he wanted to continue his night out and met up with someone. Every search Theo made on his phone that night was picked up by mobile phone towers, and that raw data has been analyzed by the two private investigators. Ken Gamble said they knew when he walked and we know when he stopped. Theo's movements after he left Cheeky Monkeys are on a path in the opposite direction from the hostel. He stopped at the recreation ground for 7 minutes, Ken Gamble said, then met up with someone who led him away towards the bush path to Theo Beach. Theo then moved away from the beach into bushland and the small clearing where his GPS was switched off. Nigel Fair believes that Theo went into his settings and turned off the GPS, but the phone still tracked him, and even when his activity on the phone stops, 12 hours later the phone itself is on the move along paths near the Byron Bay lighthouse. It finally runs out of power around 1 p.m. in the afternoon. Jean-Philippe Pector, Theo's uncle and godfather, told Channel 9 News under investigation of the emotional toll the mystery of the teen's disappearance and believed death has taken on his family. In early June 2019, Theo's family flew to Byron Bay and his father Laurent issued an emotional plea. Locals responded and massive searches for Theo discovered his favorite baseball cap lying near a track leading to Theo Beach. Police believed he'd attempted to scale steep cliffs and may have fallen to his death into the raging surf. The case also raised the spectre of the tourist paradise's seedy underbelly of drugs, alcohol, mental illness, and homelessness. All these factors were considered to have possibly contributed to Theo's demise. The new digital evidence unearthed by the under investigation program was presented at the coroner's inquest into Theo's death. The inquest, which started in November 2021, also investigates the death of Thea Liddell, which Ken Gamble and Nigel Fair believe is linked to Theo's death. Tallow Beach is a popular gathering place by day and night for locals and visitors, with Cozy Corner frequently hosting illegal weekend doof parties. The homeless also have hidden camps in the bush next to the beach. Detectives investigating the disappearance of Théo Hayez will offer a cash reward to finally solve the case. After a coronial inquest into his disappearance, police said they would seek a reward in hope of finally uncovering what happened to the missing teenager. Detective Senior Constable Philip Parker, who is leading the investigation, will make an application at the request of Theo's shattered family, who traveled to Byron Bay from Belgium for the inquest. The sum of the reward, which will be subject to New South Wales police approvals, is yet to be announced. Speaking through an interpreter, his father, Lauren Hayes, told the court the family had not given up hope of finding him alive and was determined to find answers. I would like to thank Missing Persons Registry Manager Detective Inspector Glenn Brown for his sensitivity and his work, in which I place a lot of hope in the future to solve Theo's case. He said, "In our distress, we have had the immense chance to rely on an incredible support from our fellow citizens in Belgium, but also, and most importantly, from the amazing community of Byron Bay. I would like to thank all these people for eternity. Thanks to them, I keep faith in humanity. Not everything is lost in this world." The inquest has so far raised more questions than answers, with the court previously hearing there were flaws in the police investigation. Senior Constable Parker admitted very important evidence was missed and not enough searches were conducted after Theo's Puma cap was found in an area which had been thoroughly searched before. Counsel assisting the coroner, Kristen Edwards, said the location of the cap 6 weeks later suggested important finds were missed in earlier searches, to which Senior Constable Parker agreed. The court also heard from Theo's friends and others who were at the club that night, who offered contradictory evidence to bouncers' claims the teenager was drunk. Family and friends maintained that Theo was not a big drinker and did not seem drunk on the night he vanished. As the hearing reached its final scheduled day on Friday, Coroner Teresa O'Sullivan, who is presiding over the inquest, burst into tears. After hearing heart-rending testimonies from the family, Coroner O'Sullivan said she wanted to say a few words, but she was overcome with emotion as she tried to address the inquest and had to adjourn to take a break while she composed herself. "That was an extraordinary experience for me and the other people in this courtroom," she said as she choked back tears. "Everyone in this courtroom these last 2 weeks has felt your pain. What we've experienced also through these last 2 weeks, and so much so today, hearing your words, is your love. It could not be clearer." The coroner paused as she battled with her emotions. "It's made me very emotional. I may not be able to speak," she said, her voice breaking as she tried not to cry. As it became clear she couldn't hold back her tears, she said, "I will take a short break." The inquest reconvened 15 minutes later to hear the coroner reiterate her admiration for the family and for the missing backpacker who vanished on May 31st, 2019. "I just wanted to say thank you to Theo's family for the words that they have just spoken today," she said, having composed herself during the adjournment. "It's incredibly generous and gracious to hear from the family, to hear everything that you've said about Theo. It's such a privilege for me to hear more about him from those who knew and loved him best. He sounds like he was the most incredible, beautiful young man. There is no doubt about how well he was loved and how much he loved you. So thank you. The coroner revealed the inquest would now be extended a further 3 days with an additional sitting in Sydney in 2022 to hear from at least 3 more witnesses who are not identified. Earlier, the inquest had heard from Theo's grandmother, Jacqueline Jorkin, mother Vinciane Delforge, brother Lucas Hayez, and father Laurent Hayez. Before leaving, I had asked him for a jumper with his smell in memory of him waiting for his return. Theo's little brother Lucas told the inquest, crying between every sentence. He took me in his arms for the last time, saying he was not living forever, and he promised me to come back really fast. Lucas stressed that his brother was not someone who would take drugs or drink heavily. He always told me that you can have fun without substances, he said. That's a sentence he loved telling me over and over again. Theo's mother also said Theo had been looking forward to the trip ever since his godfather had moved to Australia with his wife, but at the time he vanished, he was literally counting the days until he returned home. I found in his belongings the notebook on which he was counting those days, she said. He wanted to see his friends again and to have a party with them. The date was already planned. In an emotional family statement translated by an interpreter, she told the inquest, I have lost a child, but I have won a family on the other side of the world. My heart and my soul I share between my home country and this land that has taken Theo from me. Australian family, Belgian family, all the friends, I love you. Okay guys, so this is just about everything out there. I really do hope that I managed to cover everything in this video. I'm quite honestly, really torn on this one. Although I am not convinced the theory the police came up with is right. If he would have fallen off that cliff in the ocean, wouldn't some part of his belongings or anything like, you know, wash off to shore by now? Wouldn't his body be washed off to shore somewhere by now? Or at least some part of what he was wearing? Did he not have anything in his pockets? He couldn't have dropped his phone in the ocean when the phone pinged the next day. If the phone would be in the ocean, it wouldn't work anymore, right? And it doesn't make any sense. That theory just does not make any sense. What would he do on those cliffs in the pitch dark night? He wouldn't go swimming, obviously, especially in that cold. I don't understand why the police is keeping up this theory, because it just doesn't make sense at all to me, really. Then, also, the route that he took, the route that Theo took, makes me believe that he really was with someone. Is it not possible that his drink was really spiked in there by someone, and then he was perhaps told, let's meet up at some place and I'll take you to another party, and maybe they met up on that field where he spent the next 7 minutes, according to his Google tracking data, or on the beach. Maybe they went on the beach together. Also, it's very interesting to me that his friend, the one he bought drinks with, mentioned about him going to the lighthouse with a friend. Is it not possible that perhaps Theo was that friend? I mean, the friend, as far as I am aware, was cleared by the police, but to me that seems a bit weird, you know? But maybe that's just my suspicious mind. But then again, the only rational explanation to me is that Theo met up with someone, and that person was either a local or knew the area very well to take the route that was shown in the Google data. And if his drink was spiked, is it not possible that perhaps he was overdosed? That could explain what the witness saw in the night. Remember when she said that she was driving and a man was waving and the other person laying on the ground seemed lifeless and looked a lot like Theo? By the time the police allegedly checked it out, they couldn't really find anyone. Is it possible that his body is really buried in Byron Bay, as the tipster overheard? And because, as the police confessed, the investigation wasn't really up to standard, they missed finding his body in their search efforts? The police search teams were not the ones who found the cap, and if they searched in the wrong area, they wouldn't have found the body. I don't know about the ransom asked for Theo's return though. It could have just been someone who saw the opportunity and, you know, just wanted to make some money. I don't know, guys. Honestly, I'm really confused on this one, but I do tend to believe there was foul play involved, be it intentional or not. I think there was some foul play there. Please do let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think happened with Theo Hayez? For now, as the last bit of the video, let's see what Theo was wearing and had in his possession on the night of his disappearance, and I will also tell you how and who you can contact if you have any information which can help with the case. These are the following items Theo was wearing and had in his possession on the night of his disappearance. Oppo phone, model R17, model RI7, 10 colored trousers, black Nike shoes, so they were not Adidas in the end, it was figured out they were Nike shoes. Do you say Nike or Nike? Please let me know in the comments below. Again, he also had his WakeUp hostel keycard, chain necklace with 2 pendants, black hoodie with kangaroo pouch and white image on front, black watch and the Belgian identity card. If you have any information on Theo's whereabouts, please email Theo's family on theohayezinfo@gmail.com or call +61 474 383 843. If you believe you have information, you can also report to the following: Byron Bay Police +61 266 85 9499, Crime Stoppers Anonymous tip line 1-800 333 000, or complete an anonymous report online at www.crimestoppers.com.au/under New South Wales. Belgian Police, you can email the Belgian Police at opspingen@police.belgium.eu, or you can call 0800 30 300. You can also send information through to the anonymous mailbox, PO Box 208, Suffolk Park, New South Wales 2481. Let's talk about the on-the-ground search. Volunteers are organizing group searches. You can find information regarding location and time in the Facebook page on the events tab. I will also leave a link for the Facebook page in the description down below. And with this, we are at the end of the video. Thank you so much, guys, for watching today's video. Please do let me know again, what do you think happened with Theo Hayez in the comment section down below. I will leave all the information if you have any details or you know anything about Theo Hayez, who you can contact. Everything will be down in the description below. You can also contact the family like I mentioned to you previously. For now, please take care and stay safe, and please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps me and my channel out. And also, if you have a case in particular that you want me to cover, there is a Google form, the link for it is in the description down below. It's very straightforward, you can fill it in, and then I will look into covering that case. Stay safe and take care, guys, and I'll see you the next one. Bye!